I would like to call to order the special city commission meeting. Today is Monday, December 6, 2021, and the time is 10:03 a.m. And we're going to be discussing proposals for the development of the 8111 South Dixie Highway property that we own. Before we go any further, let me introduce to the commission and to the public our new procurement officer, Mr. Paul Bassar. Paul, do you want to stand up and say hello to us?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, my name is Paul Bassar. I'm the new city procurement official. I'm really excited about the opportunity of being here, and I'm really looking forward to working with city staff and all the future procurement matters. Thank you.
Very good. Welcome aboard. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. My name is Josephine Grosh. I'm the procurement specialist too. I'm here to present you with Jennifer Ferriero, the Director of Housing Community Development, for the IT invitation to negotiate number 20-21-503, purchase or lease and development of 8111 South Dixie Highway, rebid project. The purpose of this presentation had twofold. First section is oral presentation from the 6 shortlisted firms. They are Affiliate Development, Blue Wave Partners, Flagler Realty and Development, Gelban Development Company, Hyperion Development Group, Kaufman Link and Falcon Group. The second part of today's meeting will be Commissioner select 3 firms for contract negotiation. You will base on the reviewing proposals, staff comments, oral presentations, and the commission will be asked to select 3 firms for the negotiation of sales or lease and development terms. You also will direct staff regarding any specific negotiation term today. Okay. I'm going to do a little recap of this project. We issued ITN number 20-21-503 back in May. We closed in July. We received 10 proposals. On the September 13th, we have a special commission meeting. We shortlisted 6 proposals. That's why they are here to present today. We also do a further due diligence, and they've also been posted online for review and comments by the general public for 3 weeks, from October 1st to October 21st. And Jennifer will here to give you all those feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, members of the public. Again, Jennifer Ferriero, Director of Housing and Community Development. Before I get started, I simply just want to take a moment to thank the development community for their interest in working with our city and doing business with our city and in this process. They've been working with us for over a year now, and I just want to thank them for their interest again and for their patience and willingness to work with us. In making your selection today, and today marks a very important day in this process as we're one step closer to getting a project moving forward. But there are some documents and some information, Commissioners and Mayor, that you were provided with in order to make an informed decision. So we wanted to make sure that staff provided you with as much information as possible that you will consider taking into consideration the presentations that are going to be brought before you today. So you did receive the solicitation document, which indicates all of the different nuances and the objectives and the goals and what staff and what the city is looking for in terms of what will be developed on this site. You received copies of all of the proposals. That information was provided to you along with all of the support documents associated with those proposals. You received a staff due diligence report, which pretty much summarized the top 6 projects that were selected and gave you a project overview. It gave you financial review. It gave you rankings of all of the review committees, purchase terms, and other additional information. You received a litigation history chart that provided details in terms of any litigation history with any one of the proposers. You received the results from the resident feedback poll. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in this presentation. We also provided you with the meeting, the links to the Zoom meetings for the Internal Review Committee and the Citizens Review Committee. And you were also provided with various other procurement documents. I want to indicate that one of the documents that was printed out that you have before you is the project objectives and goals, and I encourage you to keep that next to you as you're going through these proposals so that you understand exactly and you can align the presentations with what the goals of this project were. At the same time, I would like for you to keep in mind that all of these projects are subject to final negotiations that we will have to negotiate with the developers. That all of the projects, if not the majority of the projects, are going to require a land use amendment. They're all going to require site plan approvals. And for any specific elements of the projects that are outside of city properties, there may be an approval that must be obtained from the South Florida Water Management District. So just keeping in mind that what's being brought before you may not, in essence, be the final project, but that there's other specific considerations that'll need to take place, which I just outlined. So keeping that in mind as you review the projects.
But on that point, as we move along with the approvals, we will be kept informed and certainly vote on what the details are of what is actually.
Absolutely. Once we enter into the negotiation process, we're going to be getting a little bit more into the details in terms of what could be approved and what would ultimately be the final product.
All right.
So the resident feedback results, they were posted online for comments by the general public from October 1st through Thursday, October 21st. And we made the public aware that that they have the ability to provide review. We provided posts online to indicate that this process was open. We sent out various emails to the various neighborhood groups, and we ultimately received a lot of participants and support on this. A total of 213 residents provided comments and feedbacks, and they provided overall considerations for the commissioners to consider as they're making a selection. We had a total of 202 residents also vote to elect up to 3 proposers in the order of preference, and you will see, as detailed in my presentation, how that preference was stated. So we had great results and great comments from all of the members of the public. And this was very critical in our process. And I'll state that again, where we've had a residents review committee that weighed in on all of the proposals in great detail, and where we provided the opportunity for residents to provide feedback online as well. And I wanted to present this so you had a little bit of just an overview of how the results were of all of the rankings. And you can see there just how the internal staff committee reviewed the proposals, the citizens review committee, how they ranked the proposals, as well as the residents' feedback and how they ranked the proposals. So you'll have that for you as well in some of the packets and the information that you have before you. So with that concludes my portion of the presentation, and I'll have Josephine come back and continue.
Okay, before Josephine, you have some more to say?
Yes, I have more slides.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So here's the timetable for today. All 6 firms are going to present to you in front by their alphabetical order. We're going to have 3 firms present before lunch time, and we will take a half-hour lunch break. The 4th firm will come back at 2:45. So after the last presentation, it will be done around 2:10. We will take a 10 minutes break, and then 2:25, we will all come back to this room for final discussion and selection. Meeting should be complete by 4 o'clock today. A quick rule for everyone: each proposal will be given a total of 25 minutes as follows. They will have 15 minutes presentation, 10 minutes question and answer. We will time clock by the 2 podiums here. So make sure you watch your time. The first time will stop at 15 minutes for the presentation, and the microphone will turn to the mayor and commissioner for you to ask questions in the 10 minutes time frame, and then we'll move on to the next presenter. The presentation should be given by the firm's key individual staff who will be assigned to this project with any additional key staffs. The presentation must be based upon the original proposal you submitted. No new design concept will be allowed for this presentation. So proposer, please make sure you follow these guidelines. Just a quick recap, evaluation criteria list on this ITN: project development, public benefit, waterfront location, development qualification, economic benefit, purchase and lease term. We will begin our presentation shortly by the first firm affiliate. But just a quick reminder, cone of silence still in effect until a contract is signed. So make sure anyone had question, please come direct to procurement. Thank you.
All right, before we begin, there are two slides that I'd like to get hard copies of. One was that last one, which had the ranking, I mean, the factors we were to consider and the percentages and the weighting.
Yes, sir.
And the other one was the rankings from the various committees, the Citizens Committee, et cetera. Yes, results of all rankings should be rankings, but, so if you get us all hard copies of those
Okay.
slides, please.
Yes, Mayor.
Commissioners, before we begin, do you have any questions about process? Clarification. All right, Commissioner Fox?
Thank you so much. I just wanted to clarify a few things. I know that I haven't been through a process like this from the beginning, but I know that right now we're doing something similar with the tent site, that we have been working with them on a concept plan that was after they had already been selected before my time. So I'm just wondering if you can clarify, I guess, the next steps in terms of, I know we'll be shortlisting 3 firms today, but then will they, I guess I know that we've talked about kind of mixing and matching at some point, that maybe there's some parts of one proposal that we'd like to be included. So I guess I'm wondering, at what point will we be talking about that? Will there be more time for resident participation after we shortlist these 3 to hear of what their ideas are going to be? Or will there be time, like, for example, what we're doing with the tent site right now, the concept plan wasn't exactly what we wanted and they went back to the drawing board. I'm just wondering if you could talk about the next steps after the 3 are selected today.
Certainly. Nancy Yurchek, Deputy City Attorney. But before I answer your question, I just want to clarify that although this slide showed the points, the different categories and the points weighted, those were what the evaluation committees used, but the commission is not bound by following these points
Okay,
at this
so
point.
we're not bound by that then?
Correct.
Okay.
That was for the evaluation committees, and you see how they ranked it based on the internal committee and the citizens committee, but the commissioner is not bound by
So
this.
there's no particular weighting of categories that we're
Correct, not for
bound
the
by.
commission at this
Okay.
point in time. You will just tally your 3. We're not even ranking at this point.
based
We're
upon
just-
whatever factors we feel appropriate.
Whatever is best, what you think is the best project for the city. So Commissioner, to go on to the next steps from this, we're hoping from this to get 3 developers in which to start negotiating, at least towards a term sheet. Now, part of what we'd like to hear from you today to have those negotiations is, yes, direction from the commission, so that if you liked a proposal, but say you wished it had this, more of this, or less of this, or something along those lines, today would be the time to help give staff that direction. From there, we're going to work with the developers to have them sort of refine their designs so that we can come back with a better description of what their projects would be, along with the terms in terms of purchase, lease, sale, and those other terms, and then basically do our best negotiations to come back with 3 term sheets for the commission to consider, and then direction to finalize an agreement with the final selected developer.
I'll get to the commission. I do have a question. When I've gone through this before, you've encouraged the commissioners to ask the same questions to each proposer. Is that something you still want us to do?
I mean, yes, we would prefer that so that it's even across the board, but you may, in a certain presentation, developer has something different and you need to query something specific about that, you certainly can do that.
Okay. Mr. President, and I think Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question about the negotiation process. If this commission identifies 3 that are our top 3, are you going to immediately start full negotiations with all 3 of those, or are you going to start with our top 1? If we identify 1 as the one we clearly like more than the others, are you going to equally negotiate with all 3, or are you going to start with that first one?
we'll follow the direction that the commission's given us. Our intention is to have 3 that we negotiate with equally so that we can sort of drive the best deal and bring back 3 really good deals for the commission to consider. But if in fact, there is one that the commission as a whole feels is head and shoulders above the rest and wish us just to start negotiations with that, we will do that, if that's the commission's preference.
Commissioner Lambert.
And just to clarify on that point, and then I'll ask my question, is we're not ranking them, we're just
Tallying
selecting
3, yes.
tallying. Okay, so we won't be ranking them unless at the end of this presentation, this commission gives specific direction. Is that correct? Okay, great. Thank you. And then I just wanted to clarify a comment I think that Josephine made on a previous slide, that the applicants will not be making any new right there. No new design concepts allowed for this presentation, but during the negotiation process, that is where some possibly new ideas or concepts could come into play.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Warren.
For the cone of silence slide, is there anything that we should not be discussing during this meeting?
Not during this meeting. This is just a reminder to the developers that although we're going through this process and 3 may be selected at this point, they still cannot communicate with the mayor or the commission or anybody else until we have an agreement. So this meeting, you're fine to ask questions.
Commissioner Shove.
Thank you. And just to make a point of clarification for that, Mr. Chick, because I know we've run into this before, that goes for anyone involved in this process. So for instance, if we wouldn't come to negotiation with any of the 3 selected today, the cone of silence is still in effect for the others, just in case.
That's correct.
An agreement would not be made.
That's correct. Everybody involved in the process, the cone of silence remains in effect.
Thank you.
Now, were the applicants who are presenting, are they allowed to be in the room during presentations? Oh.
Yes, they may be.
Okay, any other questions, commissioners, before we begin? Okay, Josephine.
All right, the first from Affiliate Development. And we will start the clock.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mayor and City Commission, thanks for having us. My name is Jeff Burns. I'm the CEO of Affiliated Development. Up here to present today, my business partner, Nick Rojo, got called into the hospital this morning and is having his first kid, so
congratulations.
unable to make it, unfortunately, but good things are happening for our family. So we're pleased to come before you today to present this invitation to negotiate for our project, The Green, for what will be our company's 5th public-private partnership in Palm Beach County within the past 3 years, and for what will be our company's 2nd development collaboration with the city of West Palm Beach. At the southernmost gateway into the city, the site lends itself to a thoughtful yet dynamic development mixing public and private uses that will enhance the quality of life for nearby residents and the area's surrounding features. It's important to note that our project that we'll take you through today is something that was thoughtfully conceived to be feasible. In other words, we did not cram a bunch of buildings and a bunch of uses on there that may not actually pencil out and ultimately never happen. We're familiar with the subject location and recently completed a project on a similar site just a few blocks up on Dixie Highway named The Mid. Affiliated's core competency is public-private partnerships, and we've completed over $500 million in PPP transactions within the last 15 years. In 2020, we held our first closing for the $125 million Affiliated Housing Impact Fund, which has afforded our organization with discretionary capital to pursue development projects. The fund is comprised of local police, fire, and general employee pension plans, which creates a unique alignment of interest between our investors and municipal partners. Affiliated is a locally based development company with our headquarters in Fort Lauderdale. We have an office at 501 Fern Street here in West Palm Beach. And we pride ourselves on creating dynamic developments that have a social impact on the communities that we invest in. This includes performing community engagement and participating in other programs that provide opportunities for the city's workforce. Our company owns a site in the historic Northwest community in West Palm Beach and is underway on construction on 309-unit mixed-use, mixed-income workforce housing project named The Grand. Leading up to approvals, we completed over 300 hours of hands-on community engagement and are implementing programs and other community benefits that extend beyond our direct investment into this community. As it relates to the Green, Affiliated's principals have met with residents from neighboring homeowners associations and stand committed to continuing this outreach throughout the process. Additionally, it is impossible to ignore the most prolific South End development in recent history, the PGA of America's redevelopment of the West Palm Beach Municipal Golf Course. It is our belief that the 8111 site should contain complementary features to those offered at the West Palm Golf Park, and if done right, will further the objectives of not just improving this area, but making it a favored destination. As such, we've been in discussions with Seth Waugh, the CEO of PGA of Americas, and have been working alongside his team to incorporate certain programs and synergies, such as hosting housing for their workers, caddies, and other corporate partners. I always make the assertion that development is a team sport. Impactful projects cannot occur without the collaboration of best-in-class professionals dedicated to their craft. Everyone involved in this project has committed themselves exclusively to our team, and we feel honored to be amongst the very best in the business. So when we talk about our qualifications, we want to take you through some of our experience and some of our projects, and many of these are right up the street. You're all very familiar with the Grand, which is under construction now in between 3rd and 2nd on Rosemary. The top left project is a development that is less than 5 minutes south of this subject site. We completed construction of this project in the middle of COVID, ahead of schedule and on budget. That was an extremely important thing for us, given all the challenges that we faced during that period of time. But hopefully goes to show you what can happen. Again, these are some other projects that are underway. We specialize in public-private partnerships, and every single deal on here is just that. This just goes on to talk a little bit more about our public-private partnership experience, $537 million of PPP experience in projects. We talked a little bit about our partners. So we have our own discretionary capital. The reason that's very important is because when we want to go do something, we get our checkbook out and we write a check. We're not relied upon third-party partners, them going through approvals. The buck stops with us, and that's extremely important in PPP development. You have a decision maker that can make decisions right there on the spot, and we have the capital necessary to do that. Another thing I mentioned earlier is the synergies involved in working with these public pension plans. These are the very plans that are very local, and it's extremely important that in order to retain and recruit the best possible workforce, which is, I know, something the city of West Palm Beach is very interested in. It's extremely important that you have beautiful Class A product at rents that are attainable. There's a unique alignment of interest. We talked about our team. Affiliated Development, obviously, is the developer. Moss & Associates is our general contractor. This will be our 7th collaboration with Moss. MSA Architects, this will be our 6th collaboration with them. Rick Rikennis, this will be our 2nd collaboration with him. EDG, this will be our 5th collaboration with them. Spina O'Rourke, this will be our 5th collaboration as well. So we go down the list here. Harvey Oyer is our land use attorney with Schutz and Bowen. This is a team that has worked together in the past, and that's extremely important, I think, when you go into a new project. So we talked about the proximity. We're just right up the street from from the mid. So I wanted to point that out. We're very, very in tune with this market, with who our renter is, and familiar with this project site. So we talked about the project in a little bit more detail. I'm going to flip over to the next slide, which is the site plan. So one thing that we wanted to make sure we did was create our entrance off of Gregory. So from a traffic perspective, it was important that we weren't bringing people in and out through Federal Highway, through Dixie Highway, which would cause some issues. We also wanted to make sure that we lined Dixie Highway with commercial uses. So we have a yoga/coffee use there. We've also got a restaurant use on the corner, which would also offer waterfront seating. Our goal is to bring people in from a pedestrian standpoint and move them through the site. So one of the things we wanted to do was open up the middle part, engage in bringing residents over from nearby neighborhoods, and then have them be able to access the majority of the site. The majority of this site is open for public use, which is extremely important to us. We're able to move people through with walking paths. We got a promenade in order to draw as much pedestrian activity and resident activity along the C-51 canal, and then of course the water uses. One of the concepts we came up with was to have a rowing club. We're obviously getting more residents in from the Northeast where rowing is a lot more prevalent or more prominent. We believe in working with certain organizations to be able to have them located at this site so that we can offer this sport to people that might be interested, whether it's youth or adults that have an interest. That'll help also activate the C-51 canal from a water standpoint. We're talking about an 8-story building with 206 apartment units. We obviously have our amenities all kind of tucked within the footprint of the building, opening up as much of the site to public uses as possible, and then a 2-story parking deck, helping that buffer between the FEC and the building. This will be our 7th project along the FEC, so we're very familiar with what needs to be done in order to properly have a residential product within that proximity to public transportation. Our uses for our commercial are extremely important in that our goal is to be able to have somebody come there and spend the entire day, and it be a series of being on the property. So what we're talking about is uses that are both public in nature, such as the rowing club, and then others where you can go get a coffee after your yoga class and walk the promenade. The Welcome to West Palm Beach sign is a pineapple. So this was a lot of pineapple farms back in the day. So what we wanted to do was something a little bit unique, something a little bit more interactive. Instead of just having a sign that says welcome, we have something that definitely makes more of a statement as you enter in West Palm Beach. These are some more slides that I'm going to show you along the C-51 canal, activating that. This is a view from the northwest. The green is going to have tremendous golf course views and sunset views. So we're very excited about the views that are going to take place from just about every side of this building. We talk about our public benefit. So $18 million over 30-year time frame in new tax revenue. Other things we're doing is the collaboration with the West Palm Golf Park and working with them on certain programs that help that project succeed. Local area spending, $30,000 a year in local spending, which is tremendous, and $73 million in direct project spending in South Florida. Obviously, quality of life, business development, investment. Our company, along with Moss, has an extensive track record in working with the public in order to offer benefits such as apprenticeship programs, job fairs, minority-owned and women-owned business participation. So workforce housing. One of the things that we're obviously is part of our company's core competency is creating workforce housing. Class A product. We're talking about beautiful product so that we can recruit people that want to come in from other parts of the United States and have a beautiful place to live, but also participate in the workforce. We don't want to change the fabric of this community. That is extremely important to us. We talk about certain residents over there that have been there a long time, and they've seen their property values jump significantly from where they started. It's important that we provide opportunities for the folks that really make the city tick. And we believe that part of the city has a lot of those residents, and we want to embrace that and engage and have a project that is tailored to them versus something that's going to price them out and move them out of the market. We're dedicated to working with HCD and coming up with a set-aside location or a set-aside, and that'll be part of our negotiation. Some of our terms: $6.25 million purchase price, your typical buyer structure. Our qualifications is a certainty of execution. So we've done this. This is not a project we've not completed in the past. This is something we've done. This is something that we're out there doing. We have a track record and specialize in PPP, and we've got a local development team. Myself, my partner Nick, we're out there in the community engaging with people directly. That's extremely important. We don't hide behind other folks. We're out there meeting with people one-on-one so that they know who they're dealing with. We're also long-term hold guys. That's important too. We're not merchant builders. We don't flip out of our projects, so we're there for the long haul. People have a direct link to us, and as I had mentioned before, the buck stops with us. I think the set-aside for local workforce is very important, and the amount of public uses that we've been able to create. So just wrapping up, I think one of the most important things that was mentioned tonight is the structure that was put in place. This is an invitation to negotiate, right? So the most important qualification, we believe, is somebody that has experience and has a track record in dealing with public-private partnerships. What we've showed you is not the end product. We know that. We've been through a comp plan amendment with your staff, right? We've put development agreements together with your staff. We know how to execute on this game plan. And it's important that you understand that we are flexible in working with your city staff in order to make sure that you guys get the very best project. And with that, I will be quiet and hopefully answer questions.
Very good. Thank you for that presentation. Commissioners, happy to take any questions. I'll start out. And so as I understand it, then all of the residential product that you're providing will be in the affordable or workforce housing category, correct?
Yes, that is our proposal. And what we have committed to via a deed restriction will be negotiated between us and HCD.
And approximately how many units is that?
So 206 units right now is what we're offering, and we would be proposing for the majority of those to be at the workforce level range.
Okay. Questions?
We're going to go down the line.
Excuse me?
We go down the line.
Okay, we could do that. All right, we'll start with Commissioner Warren then.
Thank you. Great presentation. Can you talk a little bit more? You spoke that you have that your contractor partner has an extensive MWBE experience. Can you talk more about that and what?
Yes, no, absolutely. So obviously Moss is constructing a lot of different things in and around the city, and it's these public-private partnerships always contain this level of participation, and so we've worked with them in the past and met certain goals.
Excuse me, hold on just a minute. Whose ever phone that is, can you either silence it or take it outside, please? Thank you. Okay. It's a nice ringtone, but okay.
So it would be our objective, Commissioner, to work with Frank Hayden and others with the city to make sure that we set forth a plan and an attainable plan that we can execute in terms of MBE, women-owned businesses, so that we can get as much participation from the city as possible.
Do you know what what percentage you're currently averaging with the participation?
Yeah, I think a standard is going to be between 18 and 25% is generally what we've seen in that regard. A lot of it has to do with the size of the project and the makeup of the project, but that's what we've seen in the past.
And you have a current outreach plan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Schoaf.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. In this presentation, I just wanted to make two clarifications, if I could. Staff had provided us with a summary sheet, and under workforce housing for this particular project, it has notated no, but through your presentation and reading through your presentation, you have noted that there is mixed income workforce housing and there is preference for first responders in a pre-market environment. So could you just clarify for me on that?
Yes, no, absolutely. So being that this is an invitation to negotiate, our presentation is to include workforce housing. That's our business model as a company. So we anticipate having that. We have not negotiated and specifically identified a percentage, and so that's what we would be looking to do over the handful of weeks here. Our project and part of our capital is from these police and fire pension plans. So what we do as part of that is provide first look to first responders. We've also opened that up to certain residents within the community, and on the Grand, we're actually doing a first look for local residents as well.
Just to clarify on that point, you say certain residents within the community. Do you mean you open it up first to just the local community surrounding the building?
That's correct. So such as we drew boundaries around the Northwest, the target area of the Northwest CRA, and that is what we're going to be offering first look to. In terms of this, we would, select a couple of the nearby neighborhood associations and open it up to them and see if people have an interest in participating in this project.
Understood, thank you. And then the other point of clarification I wanted to make was under your MWBE certification, you noted that you intended to exceed the 15%, and per your conversation with Commissioner Warren, I understand where that lies. You also talked about right sizing the portions of your jobs that would be sent out to MWBE firms. Can you talk about what that means and about how that benefits the MWBE participants on your projects?
Sure. So a lot of times when we're trying to get our overall percentage, you're talking about the big trades, right? The majority of the project is comprised of shell, MEP, and items like that. So one of the things we do is not only offer throughout the project the ability to meet the requirement on the bigger trades, but a lot of times if we fall short on that, we offer apprenticeship programs to get certain businesses that might not be there yet the experience, so that maybe the next proposal they'll have that experience ready in order to participate on a lot larger scale.
Thank you for that. And so that kind of helps.
Okay, all right. We need to get to the other commissioners. We only have 10
Yes,
minutes.
sir.
So and we'll try to come back around if time permits. Mr. President.
Thank you, and I'll try to be brief. I see on the sheet here it says expansive public uses, and I know that I saw a rowing facility, dog park, fitness facility, among others. Could you just go over with us which of these amenities will actually be open to the public versus only available to the 206 residences?
Right. So obviously everything along the public promenade will be open for public use. The dog park is envisioned to be kind of dual purpose. I know that there's a dog park nearby, so we're not trying to compete with that, but we want to give residents the ability to go there and with their pets as well. A lot of the internally placed amenities on the outside in between the parking garage and the building, and then on the other side tucked in between the building, those will all be private, but everything else will be open to the public.
Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you for the presentation. One of the major aspects of building on this property is that it's been vacant for so long, and that this could be an economic driver, not just for jobs that will be created during construction. I know you mentioned about 200, but also ongoing. I'm just wondering if you could touch on that a little bit more about, the economic impact that it would have, maybe entrepreneurial enterprise that would be available throughout this project.
No, absolutely. So when we talk about local participation in terms of construction, it doesn't have to end at construction. And we've got a history of doing that in the past, especially when we have more permanent job creators such as restaurants and retail spaces. We can hire within the local community on that as well. And we believe that between the restaurant, retail, the rowing club, and other uses like that we're going to be able to create a significant amount of permanent jobs as well as short-term construction jobs.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I know you mentioned in your presentation and in your proposal a connection with the golf course. I think that's really important because this is such an exciting opportunity to have a connection with both the golf course moving forward and this piece of land that has been empty for so long. And so I'm wondering, you talked a lot about it. I know the name of the green is connecting to the golf course as well. Have you been in touch with the PGA at all? I know that there's a few things that you've listed as potential the synergy, but I'm wondering if that's because you've talked to them about it, what they would want to see moving forward on this property, or what might help them in some of the resources and amenities that they're not offering at the golf course. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. Thanks.
Yes, no, absolutely. We have had discussions, multiple discussions with Seth Waugh, CEO of PGA for Americas, and it was one of the first things we did because that is going to be such a unique offering in the city. I think it's going to be a nationally recognized project that's going on there. So given all the momentum that's being offered with the West Palm Golf Park, we felt it was important to make sure that we had as much synergy between the two as we possibly could. One of the things Seth brought up, not just housing opportunities. He's got a caddy program that they're going to be doing. They've got corporate partners that are coming in on a regular basis. I mean, wouldn't it be cool to be able to, offer living right there on campus, so to speak? So, but also from the standpoint of how our project interacts with his. I think there's a lot of people that come in town and maybe their spouse is going to go play golf, while the other spouse and their kids want something to do. And so one of the thoughtful things that we thought about in this project was creating enough uses that keep people there for extended periods of time. So it's a place you can go, you can get a workout in, again, go grab a cup of coffee, and then, walk up and down the promenade. It's meant to create environment and to be complementary to the West Palm Golf Park and not compete directly with it. And that's important. We've committed to working with them during the process. Again, this is a partnership. This is a process, and we want to make sure that we're being thoughtful of the other major stakeholders in the area.
Very good. We'll go back around when time permitted. I know, Commissioner, when you have a follow-up, Commissioner Schoaf, you had a follow-up.
Thank you. One of our preferences and special considerations was how to look at potential redevelopment in the adjacent Palm Coast Plaza. Can you talk about what you've thought of potentially? I know the world is your oyster there, but what you've thought about for that?
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously that property right there is poised for redevelopment. I think the owners know that. We've been working through channels to try and get in front of them. A lot of it will come down to whether or not they have an interest in selling. And if they have an interest in selling to anybody that's involved in this particular project. I think one of the early comments that we got was, well, let's see who wins, and then we'll start having discussions. So we certainly have experience in doing that, and them being obviously a huge part of that side of town, we want to make sure we talk with them.
All right. Thank you very much. That ends your time period. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
And commissioners, it's been a while since I've done this, so I'm a little bit rusty. So when we're going around with the questions, we'll have each commissioner ask one question, circulate, and as we have time, we'll do another round. So.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, the next presenter will be the Blue Way Partners.
Mayor, just to clarify, will you also
Yes.
rotate who you start with
Yes,
on each of those
yes,
questions? Thank
yes,
you.
we'll change this.
And then the next 10 minutes will be question and answer.
Okay.
When you're ready, the city clerk will start.
Good morning. This is working? Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I'll dive right in. Thank you so much for the opportunity to stand before you today. It's a great pleasure to join with you with my colleagues in presenting the Blue Way. We believe that we have been directly responsive to the invitation to negotiate. We have outlined a program that meets the mandate for a differentiated architecture, a sense of place. We have planned for a robust program of public benefits, including an expansive mixed income execution, one which we feel very comfortable with, having a long track record of delivering mixed income as part of our business. We have a epic area of outdoor programming. We've made that possible in part by integrating the parking structure within integrating the parking into a structure beneath our residential units. We have a retail program that's a celebration of that which is local. We have a plan for the curation of space that will be attractive to not only our prospective residents, but the area and the community around. We contemplate robust partnership because we understand that an undertaking of this magnitude will need multiple hands. So the team below on this slide engages resources, both local and of national expanse. My name is Jonathan Quartel. I'm a managing director and partner at L&M Development Partners. L&M has a substantial track record in municipalities across the country. We have been differentiating ourselves with repeat business with governments such as yours. Some portion of that is flexibility and adaptability to meet those concerns, priorities as our market continues to change and evolve for the better. When I'm done yammering on, I'm going to ask Adam to jump up here. Adam Zydell of Coconut Properties. I'm sort of hopeful that he will wax nostalgic for his days of youth growing up in this community. A native son, his family has long had an imprint in West Palm Beach. Thereafter, Ben will jump up here. Ben is the visionary behind The Blind Monk, a local establishment of repute. He's an enterprising, entrepreneurial individual whose interest in the site is emblematic of how we believe that this site can be both a magnet for residents who would welcome the distinctive architecture as part of their day-to-day, but also the retail opportunities that would be included thereon. And then my colleague, Carolee Fink, who is our strategic partner on a number of deals, Carolee will bring us home with her presentation and articulate some of how we've done our business together. To reiterate, L&M and the team with whom we submit today have ample experience to take this on. We are therefore informed and capable of pragmatically addressing questions and opportunities that the site presents. Images shown here reflect work across the country. Bottom left is Essex Crossing in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, where we've knit together communities on the strength of a concerted program of mixed income tenancy and a curated retail program, including the Essex Market, which was a public market we have sustained and relocated into a new building. The project on the right is a project we delivered in San Francisco, again in a partnership with the municipality. This is one of the capstone pieces of 5800, a 4-building complex that included home ownership as well as rental. Projects in the middle are initiatives in the New York City's waterfront areas that helped the city achieve some of the economic and community development. One of the commissioners highlighted this site could well also uncork. So we welcome the opportunity to engage with you on a project we think can move forward as soon as you're ready, and will not be hamstrung by other initiatives you may pursue adjacent. I want to say that we can move this forward. It's not constrained by, or it does not necessitate the golf course moving forward and the mall next door moving forward at the same time. This can move forward in a way that can sustain and unleash some of what you guys hope for at the South End. With that, I'm going to quickly bounce to the consultant slides, where we've integrated a team of professionals who can and will help realize this dream. And Architects has functioned as a design architect. Sung architects and designers are here as part of our team to present and address questions as they come up. And I want to highlight that Suffolk Construction is present as part of our team. Stephen, a native son, a longtime resident of West Palm Beach, is also present and able to address as part of the team. With that, Adam, may I pass on the baton?
Thanks, John. Hey, Adam Zydell. Nice to meet you all. So my family's been in the South End for 80 years in the same house on what's now called Worth Court South. Our family business was on 6th Street for about 80 years as well. And when this ITN came out, I wanted to combine those deep roots and relationships in the South End with, the folks doing PPP projects at the highest levels in the country, who I have a relationship with from my work in New York City. And that's the team you see before you. The second thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to go out to the actual folks in the community, folks that I've known for decades. And for months, I had backyard listening sessions in that house on Worth Court over iced tea. And I said to folks, what do you all want to see in your community? What do you want to see from this project? And what they told us over and over again, not in these words, was they wanted to create a sense of place in the South End. So for my lifetime, as great as the South End is, there's not that singular destination that sort of tells you what the South End is. It's a collection of individually great moments, places, people, streets, but there's not that one unifying place. There used to be. You may or may not know that the Palm Coast Plaza, in its heyday in the 50s, was the social and economic heart of the South End, but it has not been that for many, many decades. So that central, essential place has been missing, that heart of the community. So that's what we're seeking to reinstill. And it's more than a destination. It's what is the South End? What does it aspire to be? And what I'd like to show you now is how we intend to recreate that or create that. So there's the top line aspects of our project. There's the waterfront access, which we can go into, the connection to the golf course, the residential units, 20% of which are workforce housing. But the piece that we're really focusing on is the public sphere. The apartments are what pay for this project, but the public sphere is where the community and the city interact with it. And so what we've gone out and done is we have curated this world. We've gone out, it's not generic, it's not we're handing it off to a broker, it's not hyper-local retail, whatever that is. We've gone out and we've found actual tenants on the theme of health, education, culture, and equity. And I'll go into each of those pieces in a second. But it's critically important that we create this world and infuse it with life, because that's what's going to make this project dynamic, it's what's going to make it great, it's what's going to draw people, it's what's going to make it interesting. And just very briefly, I'd like to bring Ben Lubin up, a good friend for my whole life, to speak about his involvement in this project.
Morning, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm very excited and honored that Blue Way has asked me to participate in this project on the commercial retail end. In wine, they talk about terroir, a unique sense of place. You can't recreate the soil or the climate of Burgundy or Bordeaux. If you want wine from there, you got to get it from there. And for me, Blue Way is a unique sense of place. It is unique to West Palm Beach. It is unique to the South End. It's unique to that site. When I came back from overseas and opened the Blind Monk, I opened a place because really there wasn't a place I wanted to go to. You know, now 12 years later, as a father of two, as a husband, as a son-in-law, and a grandson of residents of West Palm Beach, I want places that they want to go to. And as we see this city expanding, I see this as an exciting, incredible opportunity to provide that amenity, fill some gaps, provide something that improves the quality of life for the residents of this city. And I'm convinced that Blue Way is thoughtful and committed to doing that. So thank you.
Thanks, Ben. So another important element for us is that we create a community of opportunity for everybody. You know, this project is going to be rooted in the South End, but the benefits of it should extend to everybody in the city. And some of the ways that we're doing that is we have a unique job training program for folks who want to work in the culinary world through Feeding South Florida. That mini project within this project is going to be linked with Ben's restaurant and market that he's going to be doing there. So folks have the opportunity to learn job training skills and participate in an actual business on site. We have 42 units of workforce housing, and we have 70,000 square feet of programmed green public space that everybody in the city can interact with in some way. So this is a critically important value in our site. We wanted to maximize the amount of green, publicly accessible, open space on our site. 70% of our site is either green or programmed publicly accessible space. And you'll see, maybe in comparison to some of the other proposals, what we're trying to avoid is surface parking. We took all the cars, we packed them into a structure, and that frees up and opens up the rest of the site to be a public amenity. Now, there's a cost to that. It costs us money to build that structure, and you guys are going to have to decide if the impact to our offering price is worth the value that this provides to the community. But we think it's an important part of this world that we're creating, and we're presenting it to you in that fashion. So for those reasons, the public open space, the real, unique, curated world of retail, and the opportunity for all, we think that we're following the community directive that we've received all along and creating this unique sense of place. And one last piece that I'd like to talk about before I turn it over to Kara Lee is the architecture. So we understand that this is an important sort of moment for the city of West Palm Beach on this site and in general. I mean, this really is West Palm Beach's moment in a lot of ways. You can feel it, you can read it in the newspaper. And that informed our architecture. And the reason our buildings look the way they do is, number one, we wanted to respect the existing context. So the buildings cascade down as they get closer to a low-scale residential neighborhood to the east. There's 500 feet of distance between the highest point of our building and the low-scale residential neighborhood across Dixie, number one. Number two, interconnectivity is a huge piece of what we're trying to do. So the nodes at which the building meets, the residential building meets the public sphere, those are these unique indoor-outdoor rooms where the landscaping starts to creep up the building. And number three, we wanted to do something bold and dramatic. You know, when people are coming across that bridge and they see West Palm Beach and they see the South End for the first time, the thought that we want them to have is something exciting is happening here, because it is in so many ways, and we want the architecture and the visual language of our building to reflect that as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Kara Lee Fink, who's going to tell you how we're going to execute this exciting vision.
Where's the arrow? Oh, there we go. Right. Well, in addition to revitalizing a long vacant site, the economic and public benefits that we're bringing are substantial. More than $130 million will be, the city of West Palm Beach will see more than $130 million in private investment through the form of tax revenue, private investment, and a $6.25 million purchase price. Public policy benefits that we're bringing are also consistent with a number of the city's goals. On housing, 42 workforce housing units, as we've talked about, but those will be built without any city subsidy or need for tax abatement. Nearly 2 acres of open space that the community will have input and help program. And finally, the curated retail program and spaces for artists, not-for-profits, and local businesses. On job creation and economic opportunity, more than 250 jobs. And we're looking to promote economic opportunity wherever we can. M Squared is a women-owned business. We take MWBE policy and promotion very seriously. It's not just a box that we check, it's something that we really take seriously. By requiring MWBE plans?
I don't want to cut you off,
Yeah.
but we have 10 minutes for
Okay.
questions from this body, so it's now 10 minutes. So hopefully you gave us your best shot.
Sure.
Because we do need to give us time to ask you any
Absolutely.
questions. So I
Let's
apologize
fire
for
away.
doing that, but it's kind of the rules.
No, that's fine.
Okay, Commissioner Schoaf.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Also want to say kudos to you for creating a parking garage that doesn't look like a parking garage. We appreciate that. You talked about your community input going forward. Could you talk about what your plan is to engage the community further down the line from this step forward?
Thanks for the question. So, we included, I think, an extensive community engagement plan in our proposal with all the various steps. But, this project is in a lot of ways a labor of love for me. I mean, you saw all the folks that we got letters of support from. That's a fraction of the folks that we spoke to in extensive sessions leading up to this. My sister was joking with me. She said, if you take this project on, if the coffee doesn't taste good, you're going to hear from Frank Kessler, as this goes on. Like, these are the sorts of one-on-one interpersonal reactions that I'm anticipating as we plan this, in addition to our formal community engagement plan. I think the community is going to have a great opportunity to have their voice heard in every aspect of this project as we plan it, as we execute it, and as it sort of evolves on into the future.
Thank you. And you two or three slides ago, you had a phrase, which I've heard somewhere before, community of opportunity for all. I compliment you on that. But anyway,
it's the sincerest form of flattery, right? Imitation.
No, it's not. You stole the idea from me. I'm only kidding. Anyway, but it does relate to this question, which is, a lot of times when people think of the South End, they're thinking of east of Dixie. There's a whole community, predominantly Hispanic,
right,
which is down at the South End. How do you propose, or do you propose, that this project would include them as the South End as their community as well?
I think that it's a baseline value to be a community of opportunity for all. That's sort of the baseline value that we're shooting for. And what we've come up with in this initial phase is, the 42 units of workforce housing, the 70,000 square feet of publicly accessible open space, which it's not just grass and trees, it's got programming that people can take their families to, that they can come to in the morning, afternoon, and night, and the job training program. That's sort of the starting baseline point. And then, it would sort of be foolish of us to try and come up with an inclusive plan without actually including that community and making outreach and speaking with them. So we want to have that process extensively with every community in the city and hear their input as to how we can work them into the project. Like, our initial philosophy is on these slides in terms of it being focused on the public sphere, publicly oriented, the design intention, making a real eclectic world of locally based retail and experience. But what that ends up being in reality is largely the community and the city are our clients. We work for them ultimately. We work back to numbers that work for us so that we can get the deal financed, but we take direction from you all and we take direction from the community at the end of the day.
Thank you. Mr. President?
Thank you. Can you just talk a little bit about the activation of the Waterway? I see that you anticipate having a kayak launch pad. Do you anticipate also having a vendor or vendors that facilitate the use of that waterway, such as, a kayak rentals, or what do you anticipate?
So the site connects to the Blue Way Trail, which is an interesting amenity. In theory, you'd have to bring in an engineer. Maybe it can connect to the intercoastal. What I don't want to do with respect to the waterway activation is overpromise. It's a tricky thing. Everybody would like to activate the waterway. And certainly we have some strategies that we think we can execute without permission from regulatory agencies, without heavy-duty engineering, without seeking state or city subsidies. But a core thing of what we're presenting here is that everything we're showing we can execute. There won't be any coming back and saying, well, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. So what we're proposing at this point is, I guess, small boat launch areas, tie in with the restaurants, making it be an active, healthy space with what we call the health bays on the far end to the west, and having it be activated in a program all along. I don't want to stand up here and promise you something that I can't deliver at the end of the day. So when we talk about anything, the waterfront activation, anything, we'll crack it open, we'll take a look, we'll see what's feasible to make this project the best it can be. But ultimately, we have to tell you things that we know we can deliver.
Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you so much for your presentation today. It's a beautiful and very creative presentation, and I applaud you for your focus on the use of green space and minimizing parking lots and things like that. So thank you for that. I know that that is a priority for the community, for the neighborhood as well. As you've mentioned, there's neighborhoods all surrounding this area, and so that's very important. I guess my concern is seeing the cost of what you've done to the garage, which I applaud, and having the warehouse area and the instruction area for Feeding South Florida, which is a nonprofit. I start to add up how much does all this cost, and is this really feasible? And to me, that's just as important as making a great project as making sure that this project comes to fruition. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I think actually maybe Carolee, you want to handle this one?
So my background is in government. For 15 years, I was on your side of the table, negotiating with developers and evaluating RFPs, and feasibility was always front of mind, right? Because if you can't build it, who cares? We have actually really carefully looked at our assumptions to make sure that what we were proposing was something that we could do. The construction costs are probably higher than you're seeing on other projects, because we have the structured garage, but the mix of residential and commercial program that we have, we believe it's a feasible project. And our construction costs, those have been developed with the input of Suffolk, who's looked at the program. So we're pretty confident in our hard costs. We're confident in our market rents, and we think that this is something that we can execute.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the way that you have incorporated the importance to the neighborhood. I think this is a very local spot for those who are in the neighborhood and will be utilizing it, more than I will downtown where I go to Clematis Street a lot or the Blind Monk. But my question also is, it's an important spot for the whole city, and you mentioned a lot about the connectivity for the neighborhoods regionally. There's a picture of what looks like a Brightline stop. I'm wondering if you have thought at all about mobility and connecting this site to, let's say, the downtown or other areas in the city. If you've given that any thought, I know that it looked like you had a Brightline stop proposed in one of your slides, so I was just curious about.
Sure. I mean, fundamentally, this site is an important node between downtown West Palm Beach and downtown Lake Worth Beach. It's important east to west, it's important regionally. And of course, we want to get as many people to be able to enjoy the benefits of this site as possible. That's why we're creating this dynamic, expansive public realm. Part of getting those people there, part of that falls into your lap. I mean, we want to do everything on our end that we can do to facilitate that, but we have to work hand in hand with government to tap into sort of what regional resources in terms of transportation, accessibility are available to get folks to this site. But maybe a hidden question that's buried in your question is, we've thought a lot about how we can differentiate this from the things that are already in greater West Palm Beach. Rosemary Square, for example, or, people going to the beach, things like that. And it's important for us not only to make this great in and of itself, but to be additive to the greater West Palm Beach fabric, so that out of all the choices people can make, they can go here in addition to going to those other places. So I hope that people find their way there by bicycle, walking, rail, whatever means are available.
Okay, Commissioner Warren, very quickly. I'm sorry.
What would you see as you identified a lot of things that you would like to add to this project, including a great garage. What do you see as a foreseeable risk?
A foreseeable risk? That's a great question. You know, I think that multifamily in the South End, I can't think of another real example where it's been tried on this scale. And we have to do it in a way that's sensitive enough to the existing community while creating the revenue that justifies all the things that we're trying to do on the base. Finding that sort of perfect balance is our ultimate challenge, I think.
You did it. Okay, thank you. I'm sure you had a lot more to say, but we're bound by the rules of engagement. Thank you all very much.
Mayor, I have a clarification question for staff, if I could.
Sure.
And I don't know if this is for Ms. Ferriel. I know that in a number of these proposals, there's programming that's also proposed, whether it be kayaking or rowing club or cooking kitchen. Would we be able to require that in our negotiations, that these kinds of programs be facilitated?
Commissioner, as long as you direct staff on what specific elements you'd like for us to negotiate, we can easily be able to incorporate that into our discussions.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that when these promises are being made during this time, that then we have something to use as leverage later, that we want to make sure that these things come to fruition.
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may expand on that just a little bit, Commissioner Kimberly Rothenberg, I just wanted to say that as it relates to uses or other things of that nature, we'd also have to make sure that whatever is being proposed is an appropriate use, or does appropriate zoning it can be met, together with any other regulatory authorities that may have a say in whether or not that can occur.
Well, I think also at the end of the day, the document that's going to be binding upon the developer will be one that's actually negotiated, the agreement that's negotiated. So to the extent we can include it in there, we will. But I wouldn't necessarily say that the promises that are being made here now are binding. We'll see what gets into the document. And this body will give staff direction as to how much we want to include in that. Okay. You want to tee it up?
So the next presenter is Flagler Realty, and you have 25 minutes. The clock will stop at 10 for your question and answer. Okay? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Patrick Koenig. I'm one of the founders of Flagler Realty and Development, along with Richard and Scott Johnson, who are both here in the chamber. Mayor, city commissioners, city staff, it has certainly been our pleasure to work through this ITN process with your staff. We, Flagler Realty and Development and Woodfield partners, feel very privileged to be shortlisted as potential developers for this exciting property. We feel the ITN format, with its public engagement and vetting process, brings forth the best ideas for this site. In fact, the reissue of the ITN has made our proposal better because we further evaluated the city's goals and refined our program. I think it's important to note that during the first issuance, Flagler scored #1 in both the city and the public engagement. Flagler and Woodfield are well known to the city, having developed many projects and have always been invested in the city. The legacy of the Flagler partners extends back to when the city was founded and is continuing to the next generation. Not only are we dedicated to first-class development projects within the city, but we also devote our time to the betterment of our community. Richard Johnson currently chairs the board of the Palm Beach County Historical Society. During Scott Johnson's term as chairman of Palm Beach Day Academy, the Academy campus was founded on Flagler and expanded to its current educational facility. This site is very important to us. Flagler has a long history with this parcel. We know this parcel and the surrounding community very well. For our group, this is our backyard. We all live here, and this is where we raised our families. We've listened carefully to the feedback from the Citizens Review Committee, as well as met with many other groups, and we know what uses, scale, height, and density are desired for this site. And we have designed a project that meets all of these community desires. I proudly stand before you today with my partners, seeking your support to allow us to be the privileged developer of developing this site that we know better than any of these other applicants. We humbly ask for your support for the opportunity to develop this property as one of the great gateways to our city. We are partnering with Woodfield, who are developing numerous projects in the city, including the Oversea and 345 Banyan. The ITN is a similar plan of development as Flagler Banyan Square and the Oversea, which is the first ITN the city issued, and a P3 just like this proposed project. I think we all agree Banyan Square and the Oversea have been hugely additive to the city. Our consultant team, including Keith Spina, O'Rourke Partners, Urban Design Studios, Colleen Walters, and Rob Rennebaum, Simmons & White, are very knowledgeable of the city's regulations and entitlement processes and have worked closely with the city on a variety of high-profile projects, including Flagler Banyan Square, which is the former City Hall site, Ballpark of the Palm Beaches, currently the West Palm Beach Golf Course, and with Flagler and Woodfield on the Oversea and 345 Banyan project. In addition to our design consultants, we've added Verdex Construction to our team. Flagler and Woodfield have the development expertise and financial qualifications necessary to bring this project to fruition. Flagler deals with its own equity. We're local. We make decisions quickly. We are very familiar with the process of negotiating this project, and it is very important to the Flagler team. And with that, I'd like to introduce Colleen Walters.
Good morning, Colleen Walter with Urban Design Studio. Pleased to be here this morning. As Patrick indicated, the design team and the developers have reviewed in great detail the project and objectives and goals for the 8111 site and have incorporated them into their plan of development. It is very well recognized that this is a predominant site in the south end of the city, surrounded by the South End neighborhood, adjacent to the city's municipal golf course, which is under redevelopment, and serving the residents in the southern end of the city. The proposed plan of development is very exciting. It is a multiple use project with community serving commercial and residential units. These complementary units are located within aesthetically appealing buildings, and the site has been designed to incorporate an extensive amount of open space. This mix of uses, the residential and the commercial, will activate this site 24/7. The project has been designed with an opportunity for a significant signage to the gateway to the city at the south end. And adjacent to that is a public plaza that will also be complimentary, open to the public, and connect to the waterfront. The buildings along Dixie Highway are a lower profile to recognize the character of the balance of Dixie Highway and the community, with a 7-story residential building on the west side of the site that will have views of both the Waterway and the golf course. The commercial will be anchored by a community-serving, very popular grocer that is based in Lakeland, Florida. They will have frontage right on Dixie Highway. All of the perimeters of the site, but specifically Dixie Highway and Gregory Road, will have very extensive streetscape, softscape, trees for shade, wide pedestrian pathways, and the architecture of the building will be very appealing adjacent to the rights-of-way. The site itself has been designed to provide structured parking to serve the residents, some surface parking to serve the grocer, and an extensive network of open space, including a public open space corridor that runs along the entire extent of the waterway, connecting the public spaces. The residential portion of the building will have up to 210 Class A rental apartments. These will be very similar in design to what Woodfield developed at the Oversea and what they are currently developing at 345 Banyan. 10% of the units will be designated for workforce housing, serving residents within the 90 to 110% AMI ranges. Woodfield has experience with developing and managing workforce housing within their rental apartment projects. In addition to the amenities that are on site, the residents will also have amenities within the building. And the mix of units will include studio, 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. The proposer has had conversations with PGA of America and Seth Wah in regards to this plan of development, and they have their support for this proposal. Both sides see great synergy between these two sites, with the opportunity for housing for golf course employees, also the opportunity for residents of this site to take advantage of the restaurant that is proposed as part of West Palm Golf Park, because there is no restaurant proposed as part of this project. The proposer desires to activate the waterfront to the greatest extent possible, subject to what South Florida Water Management District and other regulatory agencies will allow. And they have committed to providing a pedestrian promenade with amenities, as well as boardwalks and docks to allow for access to the water for recreation. As part of the public engagement process and as part of the due diligence on permitting, this will be further explored. And if there is the opportunity to expand these waterfront amenities, the project has already budgeted additional funding to do that. With that, the proposed project meets all of the goals and objectives that the city has put forth with this ITN. And I would like to let Bruce Lewis speak to the public engagement.
Good morning, Bruce Lewis. I will be serving as the Public Outreach and Small Business Manager for the project. Here before you on the slide here is a summary of what the highlights are for our Community Benefits and Engagement Plan. I won't belabor you with a whole lot of detail because we have some slides that speak to these. But I want to make some highlighted comments. In number one, the 3 objectives. Local economic impact will concentrate on the zip codes of 33405, 33406, and 33461. To deliver a successful project is our ultimate goal. A robust community engagement process will take place. We listened to the comments and concerns of Commissioner Lambert. We have identified 11 additional opportunities for the community to be engaged in. We have 5 main elements to our plan: ongoing project outreach and update meetings, grocer job fairs, small business participation, which we've committed to 18%, and a pretty unique approach to the Art Life public installation element of this project, where we want to identify a local artist from that same zip codes. These benefits, these 5 elements, really express the 33405, 06, and 33461 zip codes. The ultimate goal is, and results are, to have 566 construction jobs, of which 101 of those are committed to the 18% minority participation goal with estimated 125 permanent jobs. This slide is pretty particular. We've talked about it earlier. Flagler Banyan Square, I was a part of that project with Woodfield Investments, but the note that I want to make here is that Woodfield really hit the lion's share of the local small business participation at 37%, and to the tune of in excess of $21 million. And with that, our next speaker.
Hello, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Todd Jacobus with Woodfield Development. I'm just going to give a brief summary here to finish out the presentation, mindful of the time here. I would just like to thank you for your time, and thanks for the, again, just to echo my partner's comments, the ITM process was a great process for us, and I think made the project better and really focused our efforts and attention. So the slide you see before you here is the purchase and other key terms. Very straightforward, $8.5 million purchase price, very standard inspection period and deposits, and then a closing when we have the approval. So very similar to what we went through on Oversea and on 345 Flagler Banyan Square. Am I hitting enter on this to move forward? Right arrow, okay. Why select us? And I kind of made a few notes here. With Flagler and Woodfield, you're getting a synergy of a hyper-local group and a group dedicated to building best-in-class multifamily that has demonstrated themselves in the city of West Palm Beach through our execution on the Oversea, hitting very important community benefits in that project, and our ongoing commitment to the city of West Palm Beach and our 345 Banyan project. We are also have a very, we're stacked with local folks here, Spina O'Rourke Partners, Bruce, UDKS, Simmons & White, Verdex. So we've made a very big commitment to having an all-local team. Our solid financial standing is kind of speaks for itself in terms of what we've done around the city and the actual physical footprint that we've put in place. And then lastly, we are really excited to be moving into the South End. And again, Flagler has deep roots in the South End, and we as Woodfield are very excited to be there as well.
Thank you. We will now turn to the question and answer portion of the presentation. I will start off. I'm sure you know, the South End also contains a significant Latin, Hispanic community. Even a portion of it brags about being the Latin Quarter. What will you do to ensure that this project is open and welcoming to that segment of our community as well?
Understood. I'm going to turn that over to Bruce.
Okay, thank you for the question, Mayor. It's very apparent that we're going to need some bilingual speaking individuals. That's why we outlined our zip code designations to include those 3 zip codes. As you well know, the neighborhoods to the west of the corridor are vitally important. And we're going to enlist our community stakeholders to help us spread the word about the opportunities. We're going to enlist them to help us publicize the job fairs so that those individuals that are residents in that part of town have first right to look at the job opportunities, spread that word amongst their friends, their neighbors, their family members, to give them, the leg up on the economic benefits that are going to come to them.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Thank you. Just briefly, can you highlight the public benefits as opposed to those that are be exclusive to your residential community, other than the commercial benefits, such as a grocery store? What things are going to really benefit the public from this development?
I would just say that I think our design is extremely complementary to the neighborhood. The one slide that showed it looked like a sea of parking. Actually, most of that was structured parking and undergrade. there was surface parking for the grocer that is kind of necessary to bring them along. So I think the design, the open space, certainly the economic impact. I'm not sure if that's answering your question specifically because you were kind of trying to suss between the two. The set aside for the workforce housing, I think, is a big thing with some very specific income levels and goals. That's a big deal. And then our synergies with the golf course and the fact that we decided not to program a restaurant there in order to bolster the restaurant offerings at the golf course.
Commissioner, I'd like to add to that if I could. One of the elements that we didn't expand upon is the art life opportunity to have the art installation placed. And one of our goals is to, and actually had some preliminary conversations with some artists who live in those three zip code areas. More than that, we want to enlist kids from the School of the Arts, Dreyfus School of the Arts, who live in the same zip code designations as part of the team to create the public art for that area because it needs to be characteristic of the fabric of that community. So that's another benefit that will come over and above all the economic implications that we've cited for you today.
Commissioner Lambert?
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for the presentation. I was excited to see this and to hear your partnerships that you have on this project. That makes me feel very comfortable. One thing that I am very much scrutinizing is the ability for this project to move forward in a way that is pleasing to the community and to the city, always with our projects, but specifically on the city-owned property. So my question has to do with something that I hear time and time again from the residents, which is this sense of place, and that this is the gateway to the south end of our city, then moving north throughout the city. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that.
From my own personal experience, I would point to across the street to Flagler Banyan Square and the Oversea Apartments specifically. I think we did a pretty good job there of executing on the city's goals there in placemaking, and we would certainly bring that. We've got the same basically consultants stable on this project for that, and we would bring that same energy and vision and drive to do that for the south end.
Commissioner Falk? Oh, somebody else wants to address it? Okay.
Yes, let me respond to that a little bit more.
If I could add real quick to that.
Okay.
Flagler and Woodfield see this, there's a lot of momentum on the south end right now. Golf course, this proposed project. We have had many meetings with the owners of Palm Coast Plaza. We currently have a verbal understanding of a price and have a full price offer into purchase. I think if that can happen, I think that adds greatly to the whole economic impact of going on down there and provide good access maybe through the shopping center into the golf course. So stay tuned, but that could be part of what I think would be very additive as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, to add to that, Commissioner, if I could briefly say that this sense of place concept is very critical to the south end. It needs to mirror the character of the community. The programming of the public space needs to mirror the character of the community and give them access to having their words said with regards to how that open space is designed, what its function is, and who may be the active participants from the community in the programming and event planning of that sense of open space. So without that, you really don't have, a sense of place that mirrors the characteristics of the community. So we intend to embark upon that full and wholeheartedly.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I think the renderings are beautiful. The project is very, it's a great project. I think that it relies heavily on the grocery store. So I'm wondering if we, as a commission, decided that wasn't one of the amenities that we wanted to bring forward, but you were selected. I guess, have you thought about any other opportunities for, that's a big portion of this property, your proposal very heavily relies on that. So I'm just wondering if there's a backup plan in your mind.
Sorry, we're having some internal discussion. We couldn't hear the whole question, but I believe the question was if for some reason the grocery store it was not a goal of the commissions and we wanted to move forward. I think it's eminently marketable for any other kind of retail for sure. What we specialize in and what we would be striving to bring here would be a mixed use environment, and we would simply kind of plug that use, keep really essentially the apartments in their same configuration and reserve that prime retail frontage for retail use. I can't, beyond that, really speculate what that would look like. Certainly, the synergy between this, very well-known and well-respected and, kind of economic generator of a grocer that we have lined up is a big part of our plan. But certainly, the spot and the mixed-use synergies we could probably recover very well if we needed to.
Commissioner Fox, our proposed grocer actually attempted to buy this property from the city. They have a full head of steam and are ready to go. And we've had many conversations with them.
Commissioner Warren.
Good morning. Thank you for the inclusion of the community benefits portion in your proposal. I'd like to know how you plan to gauge your success as it relates to inclusion and community benefits, and in the event that you do not reach your goals, will you implement a contingency plan?
Bruce, I'll take a quick stab at that. I would look at the dollars and cents, right? And I would look, again, I would point to Oversee and the very high participation rate we had on the minority and women in business goals there. That would be our first and foremost. That's where we can bring the majority of our efforts, and I think we went well beyond what was requested or what was agreed to in that program at Oversee. So we would be looking to do that again here. That's where we think there's the biggest direct dollar for dollar benefit to the community is the economic drivers, and then making a commitment to be inclusionary in that way. So that would be our first goal. I'm not sure if I'm 100% answering your question, but that's certainly where my focus would be.
I'd like to add to that, if I may. So one of the other details that we've looked at, and being a small business advocate myself, trying to build greater capacity for our small minority-owned businesses, not only are we going to give an opportunity to participate in the various trades, but with emphasis on professional services. Everybody can hit the goal from the construction trades. The very...
All right, sorry, and we didn't get a question from Commissioner Schoaf either. We can't.
I just have a clarification for staff, if I may.
Or clarification? All right, well, let this group go and then, okay, thank you all very much.
Okay, so we will take a break. We will return here at 12:40.
All right,
Yeah, 30
Commissioner
minutes
Schoaf
break.
had a question for staff.
Thank you. To staff, on our summary sheet, you had a conclusion of this particular project in March 2026, but I see in their backup it looks like construction is going to complete in 2024. Could you just clarify for that and let us know either now or after you take a look at it?
Sure, if you give me a few minutes when we come back from the meeting, if I can answer to that, I'd be happy to just take a look at it and clarify.
Sounds great, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, the second section will be start at 12:45 pronto. So everyone resume here back at 12:40. Thank you.
All right, sorry we couldn't get your question in. I'll probably miss mine.